Are you waiting on God's timing? Have you been praying, asking God for something? You may be wondering, when will I get an answer? If you trust God, you can wait, expecting not just an answer, but the right answer and in the perfect time for you. What a privilege to have well-placed confidence in our Father while we wait. If we submit our will to God and cooperate with Him, He will give us what we want and need in due time, in His time. Trust the process. Keep watching because I'm excited to share with you one big blessing of God's perfect timing in my life with a special appearance of a guest today. When we speak of God's timing, one obstacle we often face is waiting. We want what we want, and we want it now. But whether we're waiting for that breakthrough, that promise to be fulfilled, or that next event or phase in our life to come to pass, we can be impatient. But we shouldn't look at waiting as an obstacle. In actuality, it is a thing of beauty. In Ecclesiastes 3:11, Solomon in his wisdom said, "He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the hearts of men, yet they cannot fathom what God has done from beginning to end." God has blessed us with our lives each and every day. Psalms 90:12 says, "Teach us to number our days aright, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." When we realize that our life is short and we should use our time wisely for eternal purposes, we won't waste one single day, even if that day is a day of waiting. In between the Old Testament and the New Testament, while the world was waiting on Jesus to be born, remember God was silent for 400 years. During that period of time, nothing was heard from God. Galatians 4:4 says, "But when the time had fully come, God sent His Son, born of a woman, born under law." We can take comfort knowing that God has a divine timetable. He sets the time. First for His Son to be born, and second for His Son to return. Nothing God does is haphazard. He is the master of time. He is not restricted or limited by time. In Psalm chapter 90, verse 4, a prayer of Moses where he tells us, "For 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by." Sometimes we need to discipline ourselves in the waiting. We can look at Abraham and Sarah as an example. God promised Abraham that he would be the father of many nations, that he would have a son, an heir from his own body. But when things didn't happen quickly enough, his wife Sarah, she came up with a great plan that she was going to give her husband to the maidservant to sleep with so she could get pregnant and they could have a family. Well, we know that that went terribly wrong because that was not God's plan at all. And I think that sometimes that's what we do. We pray and ask God for something, and in the waiting we get frustrated and we get tired and we want to do things, move things along and help God out. So we come up with ways that we think on our own we can figure out how to get to that point. Well, just like birthing is a waiting game because the baby inside needs to grow, needs to be nourished, so it is with a seed that God plants in us. It has to have time to grow and be formed into the thing that God is making it. And so we have to be equipped for whenever the arrival of that thing that God has planted in us is ready to be birthed, gets here, and that takes time. Why can we trust God? because He's proven to us He is trustworthy time and time again. We may not know the how, but we do know the who. He is good all the time. He knows the future and He's in control. He's on our side and He has our back. He knows what's best for you. And because God is eternal, we can depend on Him. Look at Psalm 62:8 for some sound advice. Trust in Him at all times, O people. Pour out your hearts to Him, for God is our refuge. Talk to God. He is right there with you. He is never too busy to listen. Be careful not to trust in yourself and do what's right in your own eyes. We must learn to trust God and His timing. He is working it all out behind the scenes. He's lining everything up for you. He does not grow tired or weary, and He never stops working. We know that for everything there is a season and a time. Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." You may be going through a season of waiting, but waiting doesn't mean doing nothing. We can move and grow in our time of waiting. Just like a farmer who's waiting for his harvest to be ready, we must go through stages before we reach our time of reaping. Think of all the stages and steps that happen prior to harvest. The ground must be leveled and plowed. The farmer has to know when to plant, what to plant, where to plant. God is our farmer, and He uses different tools to accomplish His purposes in our lives. In the same way, our seasons of waiting can be opportunities for preparation and growth as God works in us through His wisdom and in His perfect timing. Back in 2020, when the whole world was going through an upheaval and turmoil, our family actually experienced an event that we will celebrate for year after year, and that was the birth of our very first grandbaby, when our daughter Andrea had Abigail Winley on April the 8th. At the time, I was working for a company that revolved around events, and since there were no events happening because everything was on lockdown, come April 1st, they furloughed me. So this was actually quite a blessing because it allowed me to be at home for 3 months to help out with the new grandbaby and to bond with her. So for me, this was no doubt God's perfect timing and God's gift of time, which I am very, very thankful for. And so I would like to introduce and share with you my example in my life of God's perfect timing, who is now almost 17 months old. Hi, little ones.
Come to me.
Oh,
Come to me,
come here, little ones. Come see me. Oh, look at you. Oh, goodness gracious. What a pretty girl. Say, hey, everybody. My name's Abigail. Say, I'm precious. Mimi's precious little baby. Yeah. What can you say, little ones? Say hi. Say hi. You want to read the Bible? Say hi. Say hey. Sit down and read your book. Look. Look. Oh. Yeah. Who's that? Jesus. Yes. Uh-huh. That's right. Look. Uh-huh. He's the king. Look. Jesus is the ruler of all things forever. No, but read your book, little ones. Son of God. Jesus is the Son of God the Father. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Rescuer. He came to save His people. Oh, yeah. Sinless. There's no sin found in Jesus. Woo! Prophet. Jesus calls all people everywhere to turn from their rebellion and believe in God. Oh, good job. Priest. Jesus stands in his people's place before God. Yeah, look. Look. Isaiah 64:4 promises us that God acts on behalf of those who wait on him. So no matter what stage of waiting you're in, know that God is doing just what needs to be done to have everything turn out according to his will and plan for your life. You can relax while you wait. God is faithful. He will act on your behalf. God's timing is always precise and wise. He never delays. He is always right on time. And until next week, remember, we are all witnesses.